I still remember the moment everything shifted. The moment I realized the person I had loved and trusted for years had never truly seen me. My name is Emily, and for the longest time, I believed I was building a life with Ryan, the man I had planned to marry. We had history, years of late-night conversations, inside jokes, and shared dreams. Or at least, I thought they were shared. Ryan was the kind of man who exuded confidence, polished, ambitious, and always focused on climbing higher in the corporate world. He worked in finance, a fast-paced environment filled with high-stakes deals and six-figure salaries. Meanwhile, I was an interior designer, not just a decorator, but someone who transformed spaces into stories. I had poured my heart and soul into my career, working tirelessly to build a name for myself. What started as small residential projects had grown into something bigger. I had secured high-profile clients, been featured in design blogs, and was finally seeing years of work pay off. But none of that seemed to matter to Ryan. At the start, he pretended to be proud. He'd tell people, "Emily is incredibly talented. She has such an eye for detail." But over time, his words started changing. They became less supportive, more condescending. I noticed the shift in small ways, the way he'd sigh when I talked about a new client, the way he stopped introducing me as an interior designer and started saying, "Oh, Emily, she works with colors and furniture." The way he'd smirk when I talked about expanding my business, as if he was indulging a child's fantasy rather than respecting a professional woman building her empire. I told myself I was imagining things, that he didn't mean anything by it, but deep down, a part of me knew better. I just wasn't ready to face the truth yet. Then came the night that changed everything. Ryan had invited me as his +1 to a high-profile networking event, an annual gala his firm hosted for major investors and clients. The venue was nothing short of extravagant, a glass-walled event hall overlooking the city skyline, filled with some of the most powerful people in the industry. Everyone there carried themselves with a certain effortless confidence, dressed in designer suits, sipping on champagne, exchanging deals disguised as small talk. I wasn't intimidated, not exactly, but I could feel it, the unspoken expectation that I should blend in, that I should belong. Ryan's colleagues were polite enough at first. They asked me what I did, and before I could answer, Ryan cut in. "Oh, Emily," he said with a small, amused laugh. "She picks out furniture and colors all day." I froze. For a second, I thought I misheard him, but then I saw it. The smirks, the chuckles, the way one of his co-workers, a sharply dressed woman in red, nodded and said, "Oh, that's cute." Cute. Like what I did was some hobby, like it wasn't something I had built from the ground up, spending sleepless nights perfecting designs, pitching to clients, making a name for myself in an industry that was brutally competitive. The worst part? Ryan was laughing along with them. I felt something inside me snap. All those small comments, the dismissive tones, the way he never took my career seriously. It all came crashing down in that moment. This wasn't just an innocent joke. This was who he really was. He didn't respect me. He never had. I looked at him. This man I had imagined marrying, sharing a future with, and realized something chilling. I couldn't spend my life proving my worth to someone who refused to see it. So, in that moment, I made a decision. I took a slow, steady breath, set down my glass, and, without breaking eye contact, I reached for my engagement ring. My hands didn't shake, my voice didn't waver. I slipped the ring off my finger, placed it on the cocktail table between us, and said, "If you don't respect what I do, then you don't respect me, and I'm done." A hush fell over the group. The laughter died instantly. Ryan's smirk faded, replaced with wide-eyed shock. He opened his mouth, but for once he had no words. I didn't give him the chance to recover. I turned on my heel, head held high, and walked out of that event like I had just closed the best deal of my life. I didn't look back, because for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly where I stood.
I didn't cry that night, not a single tear. Instead, I felt something different, a strange kind of clarity, a quiet certainty that I had made the right decision. Walking out of that gala, I knew there was no going back. I had chosen myself, my dignity, my career, and my future over a man who had never truly respected me. But just because I knew it was the right decision didn't mean it was easy. The next morning, my phone was flooded with messages. Ryan. Emily, you overreacted. It was a joke. Ryan. Come on, you're really going to end things over that? Ryan. You're being emotional. Let's talk. I ignored every single one. Then came the calls from mutual friends. Emily, maybe he just didn't realize how it came across. You've been together for so long. Don't throw it all away over one bad night. He's devastated. You should hear him out. But I had heard him loud and clear. He had shown me exactly how he saw me, as someone small, insignificant, not worthy of real respect. I wasn't going to spend my life convincing a man that I was worth more than a punchline at his office party. A few days later, Ryan showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door, surprised at how different he looked. Tired, frustrated, maybe even a little desperate. But I wasn't moved. You're really going to throw everything away? He asked, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Over a joke? I crossed my arms. It wasn't just a joke, Ryan. And you know that. His expression hardened. Fine. Maybe I should have worded it differently, but come on, Em. Be realistic. Interior design? It's not exactly serious work. There it was. The truth. He hadn't even realized what he had admitted. Not serious work? I repeated, my voice dangerously calm. Tell that to the clients who pay me thousands to create spaces that reflect their brand, their home, their vision. Tell that to the companies that feature my designs in their magazines. Tell that to the architects and contractors who respect my expertise. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, clearly irritated. I didn't mean it like that. You're twisting my words. I let out a small, humorless laugh. No, Ryan. I think for the first time, I'm finally hearing them exactly as you meant them. Silence. That's when I saw it. He wasn't sorry for what he had said. He was sorry that I wasn't tolerating it anymore. I stepped aside and gestured toward the door. Goodbye, Ryan. His face darkened. You're making a mistake. I held his gaze, steady and unshaken. No, Ryan. The mistake was staying this long. And just like that, I closed the door on the life I thought we were building together. The rebuild. At first, the silence was deafening. For years, my life had been intertwined with Ryan's, his schedule, his priorities, his world. Now, without him, it was just me. It should have been lonely, but instead, it felt like freedom. I threw myself into my work, determined to prove, not to Ryan, but to myself, that my career was worth everything I had built. I expanded my client list, reached out to new connections, and took on projects that challenged me in ways I had never dared to before. And then, something incredible happened. 2 months after the breakup, I received an email that changed everything. A well-known lifestyle and design magazine wanted to feature my work. My work. At first, I thought it was a mistake. But no, they had seen one of my latest projects, a luxury penthouse redesign that had gone viral on social media, and they were offering me a full spread in their next issue. I stared at the email, my heart pounding. This was it. This was what I had worked for. Not a man who couldn't respect me, not a life spent proving my worth, just me, my work, my passion, and the recognition I had always deserved. I didn't need Ryan. I never had. The morning of the magazine feature felt surreal. I walked into the studio where the interview and photo shoot were set to take place, feeling a mixture of excitement and nerves. This was the moment I had worked for, the moment my career was no longer just a hobby in the eyes of people like Ryan. The team greeted me warmly, and I spent hours talking about my design philosophy, my creative process, and the journey that had led me here. The photographer captured me in my element, standing in front of one of my latest projects, a breathtaking modern living space that blended elegance with comfort. Everything was perfect. And then, just as I was packing up to leave, I saw him, Ryan, standing by the entrance of the studio, dressed in his usual business casual attire, looking out of place but determined. He had found me. For a moment, I just stared at him. What was he doing here? He took a hesitant step forward. "Emily, can we talk?" I exhaled slowly, suppressing the instinct to roll my eyes. Of course, he showed up now that I was getting recognition, now that the world was seeing what he never did. "I don't think we have anything left to say," I replied coolly. But Ryan wasn't one to back down easily. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I messed up, okay? I didn't mean to belittle what you do. I was stupid. I let my pride get in the way, and I realize now that I took you for granted." I crossed my arms, watching him carefully. I had waited for these words once, back when I still cared, back when I would have given anything for him to recognize my worth. But now they meant nothing. "You let your pride get in the way?" I repeated, tilting my head. "Or are you just realizing that I don't need your validation anymore?" His jaw tightened. He had expected me to be softer, more forgiving. "That's not fair, Emily." "Fair?" I let out a dry laugh. "You humiliated me in front of your friends, dismissed my entire career as a joke, and now that I'm actually succeeding, you want to make amends? What exactly do you expect me to say?" His eyes flickered with frustration, but he quickly masked it with a calculated expression of regret. I want a second chance. I want to support you the way I should have before." I shook my head. "You don't get to come back now, Ryan. You don't get to rewrite the past just because I proved you wrong." His face fell, and for the first time, I saw the reality settle in for him. I wasn't coming back. And then, just to twist the knife a little deeper, I smiled. "I should actually thank you." Ryan blinked. "What? If it weren't for you, I might have spent my life trying to prove my worth to someone who never truly saw me. Instead, I walked away, and look where I am now." I gestured around the studio, where professionals were still bustling about, preparing the final shots for the magazine. "I built this, Ryan, on my own, without your approval, and I never needed it to begin with." He swallowed hard, shifting his weight as if he were trying to come up with some last-ditch effort to salvage his pride. But there was nothing left to say. I turned, ready to leave, when I heard him mutter, "You'll regret this." That made me laugh, really laugh. I looked back at him one last time. "No, Ryan, I think for the first time, I've made the best decision of my life." And with that, I walked away for good. I walked out of that studio without a single ounce of doubt. For the first time in a long time, I had put myself first, and it felt like a victory, a long overdue one. I didn't turn back, didn't glance at Ryan one last time, because there was no need. That chapter was closed, or so I thought. 2 days later, while sipping my morning coffee and skimming through emails, I saw his name pop up in my inbox. Ryan Carter. I almost deleted it without opening it. I had nothing left to say to him. But curiosity won. The subject line read, "Can we at least talk?" I rolled my eyes, already knowing where this was going. But what caught my attention wasn't the usual desperate plea for a second chance. It was the last line of his email. "I don't think you realize what's coming next." A chill ran down my spine. Was it a threat? A warning? Or just another pathetic attempt to manipulate me into responding? I decided to ignore it. I had bigger things to focus on. The magazine feature was coming out in just a few weeks, and my career was about to reach new heights. I wasn't going to let Ryan, of all people, distract me from that. But the next morning, I woke up to a different kind of message, a text from my assistant, Leah. "Leah, hey, we might have a problem. Call me ASAP." My stomach tightened. I dialed her number, trying to keep my nerves in check. She picked up immediately. "Emily, have you checked your social media?" "No. Why?" "I think Ryan is trying to mess with you." I pulled up my Instagram and my blood ran cold. There, plastered across my feed, were dozens of comments, messages, and even reposts of a certain blog post that had gone viral overnight. The title? Exposed: The Truth Behind Emily Harrison's So-Called Success. Is she really that talented? I clicked the link, my hands shaking. The article was written under an anonymous name, but I knew exactly who was behind it. It was a direct attack on me, questioning my credentials, my talent, and even suggesting that I had connections who handed me my success rather than earning it. The worst part? It wasn't just baseless gossip. Ryan had dug into my past, twisting facts and omitting context to paint an entirely different picture of my career. He brought up my first internship, how I landed it through a mentor he claimed I had manipulated. He mentioned how one of my biggest breaks came after an industry executive took an interest in my work, implying there was more to it. He even hinted at my magazine feature, calling it a PR stunt rather than an actual achievement. It was disgusting and dangerous. The comments under the article were already piling up. I knew she was too good to be true. Another privileged designer getting ahead because of connections. Wow, she really played the system, huh? I felt a mix of rage and disbelief. He was trying to destroy me. I clenched my fists, breathing heavily as Leah's voice broke through my spiral of thoughts. "Emily? Are you there? I'm here. What do we do?" That was the moment something inside me snapped. I had spent years proving myself, years working twice as hard to build a name, to establish credibility, to be taken seriously. And now Ryan thought he could take all of that away with a few twisted words? Number, not a chance. I straightened my spine, my voice steady. We fight back.
I wasn't going to let Ryan get away with this. Not after everything. Not after belittling my career, mocking my success, and now trying to sabotage everything I had worked for. I spent the next hour combing through the article, analyzing every lie, every half-truth, and every deliberate omission. I wasn't just angry. I was furious. He had crossed a line, and if he thought I was going to stay silent, he had severely underestimated me. My phone buzzed. Leah again. "Emily, it's getting worse. Some influencers are picking up the article. They're questioning your work. We need to act fast." I pinched the bridge of my nose, inhaling sharply. This was not just some petty drama. This could actually hurt my career. "We're not just going to respond," I said, determined. "We're going to shut this down before it spirals further." First move, the legal route. I immediately called my lawyer, Natalie Reed, a woman who did not play games. After explaining the situation, she wasted no time. "This is defamation," she said, her voice cold and sharp. "We'll send a cease and desist immediately. If he doesn't retract it, we'll escalate." Good. That was one front handled, but legal action takes time. I needed to act now, to control the narrative before it controlled me. I pulled up my social media. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I could write some defensive, carefully worded PR response. Or I could tell the truth. I chose the latter. I went live. As the screen lit up, my heart pounded. Comments flooded in almost immediately, some skeptical, some supportive, all waiting. "I never thought I'd have to do something like this," I began, my voice steady. "But I won't stay silent while my hard work is being erased by someone who thinks they can control the narrative." I didn't name Ryan directly. I didn't have to. A recent article has been circulating, questioning my career, my work, and my integrity. Let me make one thing clear. I built this from the ground up. No shortcuts, no connections pulling strings behind the scenes. I held up my old portfolio, the one from my early days, filled with sketches, designs, notes, and rejections. This is what got me here. Years of work, years of pushing through doubts, mine and others. The comments started shifting. You don't owe anyone an explanation, Emily. We believe in you. Expose whoever wrote that article. I exhaled, feeling a rush of adrenaline. If anyone has questions, ask the people who have worked with me, ask my clients, my colleagues, because my work speaks for itself. I ended the live stream and waited. But I didn't have to wait long. Within an hour, people started ripping apart the article. Industry professionals who knew me started posting in my defense. Some of them even called out the lies directly. Then, something unexpected happened. Someone dug into the anonymous source behind the article. And guess whose name popped up? Ryan Carter. Screenshots surfaced of emails linking him to the blog. Proof that he had commissioned the hit piece himself. The internet turned on him instantly. So, her ex-fiancé tried to ruin her career because he got dumped? Yikes! Imagine being this bitter. I hope she sues him into oblivion. I sat back, watching everything blow up in real time. And that's when my phone rang. Ryan. I stared at the screen. I knew exactly why he was calling. He wasn't laughing now. I let the phone ring. Ryan had finally realized the mess he had created. But I wasn't about to give him the satisfaction of answering. Not now. Not when I held all the cards. Instead, I watched as the internet continued to turn against him. His name was being dragged through the mud. And for once, it wasn't me he was humiliating. It was himself. Screenshots of his emails commissioning the hit piece spread like wildfire. People were dissecting his motives, calling out his pettiness, and worst of all, digging into his own past. Someone even found his old LinkedIn profile, where he had exaggerated his job title and experience. A former co-worker exposed him for being fired from his last company, and another came forward saying he had a history of sabotaging colleagues out of jealousy. It was glorious. My phone rang again. Ryan. Then a text. Emily, we need to talk, please. This got out of control. I smirked, shaking my head. Oh, now it's out of control. When he was destroying my reputation, that was just fine. But the moment the fire burned him instead, he wanted a truce. Number. Instead of replying, I forwarded the text to my lawyer. Natalie called me within minutes. We're moving forward, she said, her voice sharp with purpose. This is textbook defamation, and now that we have evidence tying him directly to it, he has no way out. What happens next? I asked. We sue him for damages. The legal team is drafting the case now, but considering the public backlash, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to settle before it even reaches court. Settle? As in pay me? I almost laughed. Ryan had always treated me like I was beneath him, like my work didn't matter, like I didn't matter. Now? He was about to pay, literally, for underestimating me. Another text popped up. Emily, please. I'll retract the article. Just talk to me. I stared at the message, my chest tightening, not with regret, but with pure satisfaction. I had spent years allowing Ryan to control the narrative, to decide what was and wasn't good enough. Not anymore. I typed back a single response. You should talk to my lawyer. I hit send. And just like that, the game was over. The moment my text was sent, I could almost hear Ryan's world shattering. For once, he wasn't in control. I imagined him pacing back and forth in whatever cheap hotel room or rented apartment he had crawled into after being burned by his own fire. Panicked, desperate. And then my phone rang again. His name flashed on my screen. I let it ring. Then a second call, and a third. Finally, a voicemail popped up. I hit play. Emily, please, I messed up, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far. You don't have to do this." His voice wasn't cocky anymore. There was no smugness, no arrogance, just fear. "I'll take down the article. I'll tell everyone it was a lie. Just don't take this to court." I almost laughed. Oh, Ryan. After all the months he spent tearing me down, after publicly humiliating me, after making me feel like my career, my life's work was nothing, he wanted mercy? There would be none. I forwarded the voicemail to Natalie, my lawyer. Her response came almost instantly. "That's a confession. He's done." I could already imagine what she was planning. Legal filings, press coverage, damage claims. The lawsuit wasn't just about winning. It was about making sure Ryan could never do this to anyone again. I turned back to my laptop, where my career was rebuilding itself in real time. People weren't just standing by me anymore. They were rallying for me. I had brands reaching out, reporters asking for exclusive interviews, and past colleagues I hadn't spoken to in years telling me how proud they were that I stood my ground. The internet had taken Ryan's pathetic excuse for a smear campaign and turned it into my comeback story. And then, the final blow arrived. An email. From Ryan. Subject: settlement offer. I clicked it open, my hands steady, my heart not racing but satisfied. "Emily," he wrote, "I realize now that I made a mistake. I deeply regret how things played out, and I want to make this right. I'm prepared to offer a financial settlement to avoid this going to court. Let's handle this quietly, just between us." I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. He was begging, not for forgiveness, for escape. But there was no escape. I forwarded the email to Natalie. Her response? "He thinks he has a choice. He doesn't. We take this to court." I smiled. Ryan had finally lost. At the end of the day, Ryan didn't just lose the battle. He lost everything. His lies, his arrogance, and his belief that he could control the narrative all came crashing down around him. He thought he could manipulate me, humiliate me, and walk away unscathed. But instead, he underestimated the one thing that would always be stronger than his deceit: truth. If there's one thing I learned from this entire experience, it's this. Never let anyone make you feel small. Never let someone convince you that your dreams, your passion, or your hard work aren't enough. Respect is not optional in any relationship, whether personal or professional. If someone constantly belittles you, take it as the warning it is. Because the right people, they'll support you, they'll believe in you, and they'll never make you question your worth. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever dealt with someone like Ryan? What would you have done in my situation? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Cilla Reddit Stories, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.